soon. And if France or some other country wants to get oil or gas, they'll go up through the Strait and Hormuz Strait. They'll go right up there and they'll be able to fend for themselves. I think it'll be very safe, actually, but we have nothing to do with that. What happens to the Strait, we're not going to have anything to do with, because these countries, China will go up and they'll fuel up their beautiful ships and they'll leave and they'll take care of themselves. There's no reason for us to do it.
Trump leaves its NATO allies stranded in the Strait of Hormuz as the US plans to leave Iran soon. In a shocking social media post, Trump asked NATO allies to get their own oil. Berating allies, Trump asked them to learn to fight for themselves, signaling abandonment. Trump stated, "We are not there for you anymore." The post came at a time when the Trump administration has been continuously slamming NATO allies for their previous refusal to police the Hormuz. Trump, in a recent meeting, had criticized NATO for not helping the US secure Hormuz. He had vowed to never forget their rejection. His recent post shows US is avenging its allies for their neutrality on the Iran war. It is clear that US-Iran war has created a rift between US and NATO allies. Trump has yet again berated NATO in the recent cabinet meeting. While discussing Operation Epic Fury, Trump displayed grave disappointment with NATO allies. In the early phase of the US-Iran war, NATO outrightly declined Trump's demand for help to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Belittling NATO allies, Trump declared that he would not forget NATO's refusal to help at the time of need. In mid-March 2026, Trump had called upon his NATO allies to send warships in Hormuz as Iran closed the strategic maritime point. Iran, in retaliation to the US and Israel, has blocked Hormuz, which allows the export of 20 to 21 million barrels of oil per day. The US wanted NATO to police the Hormuz so that the devastating oil crisis could be calmed down. Trump had suggested that NATO must step in to release Hormuz as it relies heavily on the oil that passes through Hormuz. But countries like the UK, France, Germany, and many other European nations signaled that it was not their war. However, these countries did release a joint statement condemning Iran's attacks on its regional neighbors. They also offered joint initiative in the safe passage of oil tankers, but only after the war was over. Since the war was started by the US and Israel, European nations avoided getting pulled into it. Trump, in his latest speech, targeted UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Donald Trump lamented that UK did not agree to offer its aircraft to the US during the Iran war.
The UK say that we'll send, this is 3 weeks ago, we'll send our aircraft carriers, which aren't the best aircraft carriers, by the way. They're toys compared to what we have. But we'll send our aircraft carrier when the war is over. I said, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Don't bother. We don't need it. And we don't need it. And we don't need them.
Trump's anger on NATO casts shadow on US aid in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. While expressing frustration, Trump did mention that US helps Ukraine even though it is Europe's fight. US is by far the biggest aid provider to Ukraine. US is also the highest donor in military aid to Ukraine. Although US has not announced anything yet about its policy shift regarding Ukraine and NATO, it is highly likely that after the recent rift between NATO allies and US, Trump might take a policy shift. Trump's declaration of never forget brings a huge warning to NATO allies, especially America's cooperation over the Ukraine war.